Yeah, we're not talking about 𝐓𝐢𝐩𝐬 here. Hey history heroes! I'm Tempest and welcome to Time with Tempest, where today we're going to be talking about the real plants that historic witches used. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel to see what hidden history I uncover next. Now, let's begin our story. Miriam Webster defines a witch as the following: a person, especially a woman, who is credited with having usually malignant supernatural powers, and a woman who is believed to practice usually black magic, often with the aid of the devil or a familiar. While not entirely true, European women who practice witchcraft often adhere to the beliefs in the supernatural and magic. Some would practice magic to heal those in their community, or provide potions and cast spells for a fee. Sometimes these were for dubious reasons, and some witches truly did practice their magic with dark intentions. They usually included the natural world around them in their magic, and used a variety of plants in their recipes for ointments or potions. One such ointment is one that has captured the imagination of the world, even being shown in movies like The Witch, though it wasn't exactly historically accurate. It's called flying ointment, and at one point was the most popular trope in European witchcraft. Archaeological finds reveal that women who practiced magic in early medieval Europe often had wands or staffs buried with them. These would have been used in rituals or to cast spells, and eventually the image of these women with staffs grew into the image of women with broomsticks. And soon it was believed that witches could fly on their broomsticks, aided by flying ointment that was spread onto the broomstick. This idea came about because men, especially men of the cloth, came to believe flying ointment was not for the broom, but for the witch herself. According to them, witches could mount the broom naked and ride them, aided by the flying ointment, which was absorbed through, well, you get the picture. However, this has been debunked, and the theory of witches flying on brooms was actually less of a physical act and more of a mental one. You see, the flight of witches was actually the figurative flight of the soul, which over time people came to interpret as actual flight. Their flight was actually considered to be a delusion created by the devil, wherein witches would go on a journey in their minds, aided by their flying ointment. This journey was said to be extremely vivid, wherein witches would fly through the air and receive visions or engage in behavior outside the realm of societal expectations. So you can see why people would go to great lengths to punish suspected witches and those who practice witchcraft. Even in your dreams, a sin was still considered a sin. Regardless, witches used flying ointment or their ingredients for centuries. Many of the recipes for these flying ointments were recorded and contain a multitude of plants, such as hemlock, mandrake, wolfsbane, opium poppy, henbane, and belladonna. Since the latter two were some of the most popular, let's talk about them. Henbane is one of the plants most commonly associated with historic witchcraft, whose hallucinogenic properties were written about and used by the ancient Greeks. Even Cleopatra used henbane to dilate her eyes and appear more attractive. However, archaeological evidence points to its use well before then, especially in Neolithic Scotland. Henbane's effects are so powerful, just rubbing it on your skin or inhaling smoke from the seeds induces the effects, which are not exactly pleasant. And they can last for up to 4 days. Seriously though, do not try this at home or anywhere else. Common symptoms of henbane ingestion include unpleasant hallucinations, dilated pupils, restlessness, flushed skin, heaviness of the limbs, blurred vision, abnormal heart rate, dry mouth, confusion, vomiting, and convulsions. And if that doesn't sway you, overdoses result in death, where you are left unable to breathe because your lungs are completely paralyzed. But despite that horrifying thought, it has been used by numerous cultures for centuries. Cereal-based residues were found on shards of a large groove ware vessel that had been buried in pits close to a structure at a Neolithic ceremonial site in Balfarg, Scotland. Pollen from the plants in the cereal included henbane and deadly nightshade, which, especially when used together, only have one purpose, and that's getting high. Even more evidence of its hallucinogenic use has been found at Skara Brae, one of the most famous Neolithic sites in the entire world. Traces of henbane were found in a vessel, and it's theorized that henbane had been added to beer to create a hallucinogenic drink for rituals. Across the ocean in Denmark, the grave of a Viking seer was uncovered with numerous objects associated with the practice of magic. One of the most interesting finds was Henbane Seeds, found in a small purse. It's possible the seeress burned these seeds to inhale the smoke or made an ointment out of them. Her belt buckle did contain white lead, which was sometimes an ingredient in ointments. The theory is that the seeress had used the seeds to enter a trance-like state and receive visions and gain wisdom, though henbane seeds were also used in a completely different context in Norse society. Despite popular belief that mushrooms induce the state of the famous Viking berserkers, the evidence of it is scant. However, with the discovery of henbane in the seeress's grave, and comparing the contemporary accounts of berserkers, it's believed that henbane was most likely used by berserkers to induce their unbridled fury. Either way, it was an important aspect of Norse culture. Then we get to the Middle Ages, when henbane appeared in recipes for flying ointments, and numerous authors wrote about its properties, even observing them in action. But henbane was not the only plant commonly used by witches. There was also belladonna, aka deadly nightshade. Belladonna has had some bizarre uses throughout history. In ancient Rome, it was mostly known as a poison, which was the downfall of several emperors. But in ancient Greece, it was used as an anesthetic before surgeries to induce sleepiness and reduce pain, a practice continued all the way up until the 19th century. During the Renaissance, many women followed in Cleopatra's footsteps, swapping henbane for belladonna and squirting the juice of belladonna into their eyes to dilate their pupils. Unfortunately, it also caused a rapid heart rate and blurred vision, plus prolonged use would result in blindness. And showing how those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it, nowadays some parents are using homeopathic teething tablets made out of belladonna. And while this chills their baby out, the reason is the belladonna is causing muscle weakness and difficulty breathing. And I cannot repeat this enough, it's called deadly nightshade for a reason. And like henbane, its effects can last up to 4 days. Common symptoms of belladonna ingestion include unpleasant hallucinations, dilated pupils, sensitivity to light, blurred vision, loss of balance, staggering, headache, rash, flushing, severe dry mouth and throat, slurred speech, inability to urinate, constipation, confusion, and convulsions. And of course, it is extremely poisonous, and overdosing results in a horrifying death. We know this from various people who have used these plants recreationally, but is there any truth to the tales of historic flying ointments and their ability to make people believe in flight? Well, you're in luck, because in the early 20th century, a researcher in Germany decided to find out. Drawing upon several medieval recipes, he created a flying ointment with belladonna and henbane as 2 of the main ingredients. He rubbed the ointment on his and a colleague's skin and began a journey that would last 20 hours. He describes the sensation of flying through the air for miles, with sudden deep drops. And at the end of this, he speaks of a party with grotesque sensual excess. While one anecdote is not enough to prove flying ointment was indeed for the purposes of figurative flight, the historical evidence does seem to indicate that was its true purpose. Most ingredients were plants known to cause hallucinations and sensations of flight. Historic accounts of people finding women in deep states of unconsciousness, only to awaken and confess they had been on a journey, are numerous. And archaeological evidence backs up the plant's supposed magic properties. So the next time you hear of a witch's brew containing 𝐓𝐢𝐩𝐬, just remember what was in a real witch's brew and how they were literally flying high. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please remember to subscribe, distribute your delight, or leave your calling card in the comments below because the YouTube algorithm gods demand it. Until next time, stay curious, history heroes.